A village was wiped out in the battle against the demon lord. A little boy named Lloyd is standing in front of the ruins, and the haunted look in his eyes reveals the deep trauma he's endured. When a woman discovers him standing amidst the ruins, she's overwhelmed with guilt, knowing that her own negligence caused the devastation. Wanting to make amends, she brings Lloyd into her home and offers him a new life. While he stays with her, she also begins teaching him the art of magic. Her first lesson for Lloyd is the flame spell. She briefly demonstrates the spell, then tells Lloyd that if he can't figure out how to cast it by himself, he won't be getting any dinner that day. Miraculously, by nightfall, Lloyd succeeds in producing a tiny flame. Yet, when he presents it to his master, instead of praising him, she extinguishes it with a breath, and then snaps her fingers to engulf him in a wall of fire, scolding him for not doing it properly. Still, she allows him to eat dinner since he did manage to learn the spell. The next day, his master changes things up and tells Lloyd that he'll be learning water magic. She gives a brief demonstration. She sweeps her foot along the ground to create a small spout of water. When it's Lloyd's turn to try, he manages to slightly dampen the ground and looks quite pleased with himself. But his master isn't impressed at all. To show him what real water magic looks like, she dumps a massive amount of water on him. As time passes, Lloyd's training carries on, with him putting in his best effort to learn new spells while Merlin dishes out harsh punishments whenever he falls short. But surprisingly, her tough methods actually pay off. When winter arrives, Lloyd's magic has improved so much that he can summon a snow sculpture of Merlin with little effort. It was a kind gesture, and although she appreciates it, she refuses to show it. Instead, she takes over the snow sculpture, uses it to grab Lloyd, and dramatically enlarges it to demonstrate true mastery over ice magic. The sculpture eventually collapses, causing Lloyd to fall. Still, by now, the two share a strong mutual understanding. As soon as he pulls himself out of the snow, Lloyd tells Merlin he'll put more effort into his magic, and she responds with a smile of approval. Some time passes, and one morning Merlin is sprawled out on her couch, nursing a hangover from drinking too much wine the night before. Lloyd comes by to check on her and asks if she's okay, but she groans and tells him she feels absolutely awful. Wanting to help, Lloyd places his hand on her forehead and uses his healing magic to ease her hangover. Within seconds, Merlin feels significantly better. She sits up, gives Lloyd a hug, and thanks him for the healing. Now that she's feeling like herself again, she declares it's time to resume his magic training, then promptly drags him back outside. This continues for several months. Then, one day, Merlin gets a book that deeply worries her. At that moment, Lloyd knocks on her door to call her for dinner. She replies that she'll be right there and begins to put the book aside. But as she does, she accidentally drops it in front of Lloyd. He stoops to pick it up, and the moment his hands touch it, a rush of knowledge instantly fills his mind. Lloyd collapses from the overwhelming flood of information. When Merlin realizes what's happened, she's stunned. He possesses the traits of the Chosen One. For now, she carries him to bed. But if he truly is the prophesied one, she can't allow him to repeat her past mistakes. With a gentle kiss on his forehead, a soft glow lingers as she casts a spell on him. She refuses to let Lloyd grow arrogant with his power, just as she once did. The following day, Lloyd's training carries on, and this time, his master brings him into the forest to practice his white magic. He focuses his power on a single fruit, making it ripen and become juicy. Impressed, his master compliments him on his progress. However, she also wants to remind him there's still much more to learn. Placing her hand on the tree, she casts white magic and causes the whole tree to flourish with vibrant greenery. That night, Merlin assists Lloyd with his studies and tells him that some orcs possess rare magic capable of controlling monsters. As they read, Lloyd comes across a mention of ancient magic, but the moment he brings it up, Merlin's expression changes, and she firmly tells him that he doesn't need to learn anything about ancient magic. One of her training drills involves summoning a magic staff in an instant. When Lloyd fails to react swiftly enough, Merlin strikes him down with her own staff. She sternly warns him that he must never grow complacent in his practice, no matter how strong he gets. Lloyd vows to stay committed and never slack in his training. For their next lesson, Merlin teaches Lloyd about magic stones. She explains that these stones are solidified concentrations of mana, so potent that they can transform nearby objects into magic stones too. A few months pass, and during one of Merlin's lessons, she brings Lloyd deep into the wilderness, hands him a knife, and tells him he has to survive in the forest and find his way back home alone within 1 week. Before he can protest, she takes off running, leaving him stranded. Not long after she disappears, a huge wolf emerges from the trees and launches an attack on Lloyd. Lloyd flees for his life and ends up climbing a tree to escape the wolf. He doubts that a white mage like him has the power to take down such a beast, so his best bet is to make it back home without running into any more monsters. However, when he uses magic to scan his surroundings and figure out the right path, he realizes just how far he's wandered. With no other option, he begins carefully making his way through the forest, and once night falls, he uses the time to study his spells, trying to improve them as much as he can. Days pass with their usual routine until one moment, Lloyd snaps a branch underfoot, alerting a massive spider to his location. Heart-pounding, he bolts in the opposite direction, casting a haste spell to surge ahead of the creature. After a long and exhausting journey, he finally reaches home safely, only to collapse from fatigue right outside the door. When Merlin finds him, she's genuinely proud of him for making it back alone, proving his resilience. Several more years pass, and one day while Lloyd is cleaning, he spots a book on Merlin's desk about a town. Curious, he asks if he can borrow it, and she tells him to keep it. By now, Lloyd has essentially finished his training, so he's no longer subjected to her non-stop lessons. However, every other day she still ropes him into helping her create new spells, since his knack for magic development is exceptional. Lloyd doesn't mind though. He's happy she finally sees him as an equal. However, he hasn't slept at all in the past few days, as Merlin forces him to stay awake every night for magical experiments. The relentless demands are wearing on him, and his fascination with town life only grows. Eventually, he decides to take bold action. The following morning, Merlin goes up to Lloyd's room to request his assistance with more magical studies. However, she's shocked to find him missing. Based on the book left open on his desk, she can guess exactly where he is. Meanwhile, Lloyd reaches the town and is instantly impressed by the bustling activity around him, this being his first time in such a place. After buying a simple loaf of bread, he realizes he's completely broke and needs work fast. Just then, a poster advertising for adventurers flies right into his face. Without hesitation, Lloyd decides to apply. The whole time, a cloaked man has been secretly tailing Lloyd, clearly interested in the decision he just made. After Lloyd officially joins the adventurers' party, he and his new teammates head to the castle to battle a huge cyclops. When the fight gets tough, the party leader, Alan, tells the healer, Sheena, to restore his health. But just as she's about to act, Lloyd silently casts his advanced stat buff spell, instantly making everyone feel stronger and revitalized. None of them realize it was Lloyd's doing. He never says a word. After the buff takes effect, the archer lands a shot right in the Cyclops' eye, and then Rena uses her shield to block one of its punches, surprised by how effortlessly she managed it. Alan, on the other hand, doesn't question his sudden increase of power and confidently finishes off the Cyclops, fully convinced it was all thanks to his own power. But Rena appears to have picked up on the fact that Lloyd had something to do with their unexpected boost. With the Cyclops defeated, the party returns to town, where Alan is celebrated as a hero. Apparently, the creature was so formidable that no one else had managed to take it down. The reward for the feat turns out to be enormous, but Alan hands Lloyd a mere 5 gold coins, claiming the low amount is due to him being just a rookie D-rank adventurer. Lloyd takes the money without protest, but when Alan suggests a toast to the party's victory, Lloyd excuses himself because he doesn't want to be involved. The party's mage, Maya, gets offended that Lloyd doesn't want to drink with them, but Alan tells her it's fine since they can always hire another white mage, and it's not like he contributed much to the party's performance anyway. Back at Merlin's home, the mysterious man from earlier appears, and Merlin questions him about Lloyd's whereabouts. The man informs her that Lloyd made it to town and has already joined a famous party. Relieved to hear he's safe, Merlin reflects that it was time for him to explore the world independently, as long as he doesn't grow overconfident like she once did in her youth. She believes he'll be just fine. The man asks if she still carries any regrets about that day. Merlin's expression twists with bitterness as she recalls her mistake. At the time, she hadn't foreseen the Demon Lord's willingness to self-destruct just to obtain the grimoire. That single miscalculation led to the destruction of an entire village, instantly wiping out everyone nearby, including Merlin herself. Luckily, her companion Sybil managed to bring everyone back using forbidden ancient magic, but the cost was his own life. Since then, Merlin has never stopped blaming herself. Back in Lloyd's ongoing adventures with the hero party, he continues to quietly support them. Whenever Alan or the others run into trouble during a fight, Lloyd is always there, casting buffs to give them an edge. Thanks to his efforts, the team maintains an almost flawless win streak, with everyone consistently performing at their best. Yet none of them realize just how much of the load Lloyd is actually carrying. That night, Rena is studying defensive techniques when Alan barges into her room. Curious about what she's doing, she explains that she's a bit confused because monster attacks haven't been hitting her shield as hard as before. Alan agrees, saying he's been feeling the same thing but just assumed it was his natural skill kicking in. Rena points out that he hasn't been training much lately, so his sudden strength boost doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, deep in the forest that night, a group of guards were wrapping up their patrol when, without warning, one of them let out a cry of agony. The others turned just in time to see a huge earth golem looming above him. In that instant, one of the guards knew this was the end for him. The following morning, the guard captain approaches Alan to request his assistance. He explains that the guards who were on patrol last night were savagely killed. Without hesitation, Alan agrees to help, assuming that taking down a golem should be a simple task. Later that afternoon, they follow Lloyd's tracking magic to trace the earth golem to a cave hidden behind a waterfall. With Lloyd still providing magical support, they make quick work of the stone monster. However, a demon summons another golem from the falling rocks above, forcing them back into battle. Lloyd examines the demon more closely and notices that it's using a staff embedded with a magic stone to control the golem. Knowing how dangerous magic stones can be, he realizes he has to act fast before things spiral out of control. He casts a precision spell and tells Lulu to shoot an arrow at the demon. Caught off guard by Lloyd's sudden command, Lulu hesitates for a moment but follows through. Miraculously, her arrow manages to pierce through and hit the target. Lloyd then instructs Mia to teleport the staff to him. As soon as it's in his hands, he quickly casts a spell to seal its magic. Meanwhile, Alan is growing irritated that Lloyd keeps giving commands, even though he's supposed to be the one in charge. Frustrated, Alan tries to reclaim authority by rushing in to land the killing strike on the golem himself. Lloyd refuses to let Alan die, so he enhances his own speed with magic and shoves Alan aside just before the golem crushes him. But instead of gratitude, Alan snaps at Lloyd for interfering, ignoring the fact that he was just saved. He then goes on to deliver the final blow to the golem. Once they all return to town, Alan, still pissed off, decides to fire Lloyd for being a nuisance. Alan also accuses him of being lazy and never contributing to the team. And after years of hearing from Merlin that his abilities were useless, Lloyd instinctively assumes the problem must be him. He accepts being kicked out of the party without arguing, and over the next 3 days, he searches for a new party to join. Unfortunately, it proves to be tough. Most parties already have a white mage. However, by chance, a girl at the reception desk is desperately asking the guild receptionist for a white mage. Right then, the receptionist points toward Lloyd, and the moment the girl spots him, she rushes over, grabs his hand, and forces him to join her party. That was the first episode. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.